Shabbat Shalom and Muadim L'Simcha. Welcome to our service this evening for Shabbat and the 7th evening of Pesach, brought to you by Beit David in Sandton, Beit Menorah in Pretoria, and Beit David in Durban. The sermon this evening will be delivered by Rabbi Elisheva Salomo from San Francisco. Please consider sponsoring a virtual service either in your name or in the name of your business. During the service, the name of the sponsor will scroll at the bottom of the screen. This evening, the Shabbat candles will be lit by Lynn Sherlock in honor of her birthday this week. We look forward to your greetings and comments in the live chat. Please enjoy the service, which commences on page 384. Remember, it's the Yom Tov Dika service, not the Shabbat service. Page 384.
O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher gilshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat v'Yom Tov.
Amen. And a happy birthday to you, Lynn. The expression, I shall harden Pharaoh's heart, which occurs so often during the recitation of the Exodus story, requires a little explanation. The short answer is that Pharaoh had free will. It is given by God to all persons, and he chose to do what he did. However, if we look at it more closely, another expression, the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord, appears more than once in the text. It is God's intention that the idol worshippers should see the error of their ways and come to believe in one true God. Then would follow their acceptance of righteous ethical conduct, which is what God demands of all of us. By shielding the righteous and overthrowing the wicked, God's justice and might are seen by all. The Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord. 3,200 years later, we Jews are still struggling to be a light unto the nations, to show the world at large the value of God's teachings to mankind. The choir will now lead us in the singing of Mishkan Shir.
Mishkan Shir Yom HaShabbat, Tov lehodot l'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. Mishkan Shir Yom HaShabbat, Mishkan Shir Yom HaShabbat, Tov lehodot l'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. Mishkan Shir Yom HaShabbat, להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות, עלי עשות עלינו
Asor v'aleina vel, alei higayon bechinor. Ki simachtani Adonai b'foalecha, b'maasei yadecha aranen. Ma gadlu maasecha Adonai, מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך. איש בעל לא ידע וכסיל לא יבין את זאת. צדיק התמר יפרח, the upright shall flourish like a palm. כארץ בלבנון ישגה, it shall thrive like the cedar in Lebanon. שתולים בבית אדוני, בחצרות אלוהינו יפריחו. עוד ינובון בשיבה, תשיינים ורעננים יהיו. להגיד כי ישר אדוני, צורי ולא עוולת בו. On page 391, Adonai malach geut lavesh, lavesh Adonai oz tit azar. Af tikon tevel baltimot, nachon kaascha me'az, me'olam ata. Nasu naharot Adonai, nasu naharot kolam, yosu vaharot dochyam.
Mikolot ma'im rabim, adirim, nishpereya. Mikolot ma'im rabim, adirim, mishpereya. Die, 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 adim amarom Adonai, adim amarom Adonai, adim amarom Adonai. Adim amarom Adonai, adim amarom Adonai, adim amarom Adonai.
We turn to the Chatzi Kaddish on page 392. Just a little reminder, Chatzi Kaddish means half of the Kaddish. We don't do the full Kaddish, just a portion of it. It's a full stop, it's a break between sections of the service. Page 392. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabah, Birma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, B'chayeichon v'yohomeichon v'chayedecho Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevorach, Yolam ulolme olmaya. Yitbarach, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitale v'yitalal Shmei dekudesha brichu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, Tushbachata v'nechemata, da'amihira bi'alma ve'imaru. Amen. We turn now to the Baruch Hu, page 394, as a prelude to the Shema. Page 396. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chokhmah poteach she'arim, ובתבונה משנים עתים ומחליף את הזמנים, ומסדר את הכוכבים, במשמרותיהם ברקיע כרצונו. בורא יום ולילה, גולל אור מפני חושך, וחושך מפני אור, ומעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו. אל חי וקיים תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני המעריב ערבים. Page 397, 7th day of Pesach. And time reverses its course, today flowing back into yesterday, like a river enclosed at its mouth. Each of us has been a slave in Egypt, soaked straw and clay with sweat, and crossed the sea dry-footed. You too, stranger, this year in fear and shame, next year in virtue and justice.
Avat olam, Avat olam, Beit Yisrael, Hamechavta, Torah u'mitzvot, chokim u'mishpatim, otanu limadeta, otanu limadeta.
Al ken Adonai Eloheinu
Beshoch veinu.
uvekomenu
Nasiach bechokecha v'nizmach b'divrei Toratecha u'v'mitzvotecha le'olam
Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael, and we turn to page 400 for the Shema. Next page, V'ahavta, I want to draw your attention to two words which I've mentioned before. V'shinantam levanecha, impress it upon your children. It says constantly in our theology that the children are the bearers of our cultural heritage into the future. And it's our duty to impress all these matters on our children. Look how often our children are referred to in the Torah, in the Seder for Pesach. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך. ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם. בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך. וקשרתם להיות על ידיך. והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך. וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. Page 405. Sorry, 403. I misread. The Eternal One said to Moses, "Speak to the Israelite people and instruct them to make for themselves fringes on the corners of their garments throughout the ages. Let them attach a cord of blue to the fringe at each corner. That shall be your fringe. Look at it and recall all God's commandments and observe them, so that you do not follow your heart and eyes in your lustful urge." Moses was a realist. People had to be reminded constantly of what they had to do and what they were not allowed to do. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. We come now to Micha Mocha, page 406, which is very pertinent to what we've been reading in the Torah. It concerns the crossing of the Red Sea, the Reed Sea, and the rejoicing when everybody reached the other side of it safely. Micha Mocha, which means who is like you, Ba'elim, among gods, Adonai, O Eternal One. Micha Mocha.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדב kodesh, Menorah tehilot osefele, Menorah tehilot osefele, Malchut kara uvanecha, Bokeh hayam lifnei Moshe uMiriam, Zelianu ve'amru, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed.
ונאמר כי יפדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. Baruch atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. A constant thank you to God for being our Redeemer, our Saviour. On the next page, Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'ha'amideinu malkeinu l'chaim. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha v'takanenu be'etza tova milfanecha. V'hoshienu l'ma'an shemecha v'hagein ba'adeinu v'haser me'aleinu. Oyev, dever, חרב וחרב ורעב ויגון והרחק ממנו אזון ופשע. ובצל כנפיך תסתירנו, כאל שומרנו ומצלנו אתה, כאל חנון ורחום אתה, ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ולשלום, מעתה ועד עולם. Baruch atah Adonai hapores sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim.
V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם בריתונם, ביני ובין בני ישראל. אותי לעולם, כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני
את השמיים ואת הארץ ואת הארץ וליום השביעי שבת וינפש וביום השביעי שבת וינפש.
וידע במשה את מועדי אדוני אל בני ישראל, ישראל.
אל בני ישראל
אל בני ישראל, אל בני ישראל, ישראל.
וידבר משה את מועדי אדוני אל בני ישראל, and Moses declared the appointed festivals of the Eternal One to the people of Israel. And you turn to page 468 for the Amidah.
Adonai sefata tiftachu fi yagid teilatecha יפתח הופיע כי תהילתך. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואלוהי אמותינו אלוהי אברהם אלוהי יצחק ואלוהי יעקב אלוהי שרה אלוהי רבקה אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה
האל הגדול הגיבור והנורא אל עליון גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה
מלך עושה ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה.
Page 472. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, וחיי הכל אתה, רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם. מזריח השמש ומוריד הטל. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל, ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים, ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים. מקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך? מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישוע. ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה הכל. Next page. וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. You are holy, your name is holy.
ברכתנו מכל העמים, אהבת אותנו ורצית בנו.
ורוממתנו מכל הלשונות וקידשתנו במצוותיך וקרבתנו מלכנו לעבודתך ושמך הגדול והקדוש עלינו קראת.
ותיתן לנו אדוני אלוהינו באהבה, שבתות למנוחה ומועדים לשמחה, חגים וזמנים לששון, את יום השבת הזה ואת חג המצות הזה, זמן חירותנו, מקרא קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. Page 480. אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו יעלה ויעבור ויזכר זיכרוננו. וזיכרון כל עמו בית ישראל לפניך לטובה ולחן ולחסד ולרחמים ולחיים ולשלום ביום חג המצות הזה. Zochreinu Adonai Eloheinu bo l'tova, amen. Ufokteinu bo livracha, amen. V'hoshienu bo l'chayim, amen. V'hasiyenu Adonai Eloheinu et bracha, moadecha l'chayim ולשלום, לשמחה ולששון כאשר רצית ואמרת לברכנו. אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, רצי במנוחתנו, קדשנו במצוותיך, ותן חלקנו בתורתך. Right, put me back. Sabainu mituvecha v'samachenu bishuatecha.
ותהה ליבנו, ותהה ליבנו, ותהה ליבנו לעבדך באמת. ותהה ליבנו, ותהה ליבנו, ותהה ליבנו לעבדך באמת. דה 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 אוי! דה 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 ותהה ליבנו, ותהה ליבנו, ותהה ליבנו לעבדך באמת. ותהה ליבנו, ותהה ליבנו, ותהה ליבנו לעבדך באמת.
והנחילנו אדוני אלוהינו באהבה וברצון, בשמחה ובששון שבת ומועדי קודשך, וישמחו בך ישראל מקדשי שמך. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת וישראל והזמנים.
רצה אדוני אלוהינו בעמך ישראל, ותפילתם מאהבה תקבל, ותהי לרצון תמיד עבודת ישראל.
מודים אנחנו לך שאתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו לעולם ועד. צור חיינו, מגן ישענו, אתה הוא לדור ודור. נודה לך ונספר תהילתך על חיינו המסורים בידיך, ועל נשמותינו הפקודות לך, ועל ניסיך שבכל יום עמנו, ועל נפלותיך וטובותיך שבכל עת, ערב ובוקר וצהריים. הטוב כי לא חלו רחמך, והמרחם כי לא תמו חסדיך. מעולם קיווינו לך. Page 487. Very unusual what we're going to read now. I thank you, God, for most this amazing day for the leaping greenly spirits of trees and the blue true dream of sky, and for everything which is natural, which is infinite, which is yes. I who have died am alive again today, and this is the sun's birthday. This is the birthday of life and love and wings, and of the gay, great happening, illimitably earth. How should tasting, touching, hearing, seeing, breathing, any lifted from the know of all, nothing human, merely being, doubt unimaginably you? From the ears of my ears awake, and now the eyes of my eyes are open. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha l'chanoeh lahodot. We pause for a few moments of silent prayer. At this moment, we shall be counting the Omer. Now, the Omer was barley and wheat, which the children of Israel brought to the temple as sacrifices. Obviously, that couldn't have happened during the trip, during the long journey through the desert, because they weren't in any place long enough to grow those crops. But the rabbis decided to create a connection from Pesach to Shavuot. And they did it by making the congregation count the Omer for the days in between. That way, it kept them in touch with what was still to come. Remember, the God that they were presented with was an invisible God, an incorporeal, and they had to have some kind of reminder that God was there, and so the rabbis dreamed up various items to keep them connected to their faith. Page 570 for the counting of the Omer. 570. Hineni mukhan umezeman lekayem mitzvat aseh shel sfirat haomer. I'm ready to fulfill the mitzvah of counting the Omer. It's only a matter of days now. We're counting since second day Pesach, and no weeks as yet. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sefirat ha'omer. Shesh Yamim. That's it, 6 days. Today is the 6th day of counting of the Omer. And from here, we move to Rabbi Eli Sheva in San Francisco, who will be joining to us and delivering some words of wisdom. Thank you, Rabbi. We are eagerly waiting to hear your remarks.
Shabbat Shalom, and welcome to this holiest of Shabbatot. We are in the midst of Passover, and tomorrow we'll be reading the holiest book of all, the Song of Songs. I hope you'll join us and enjoy the beauty of the countryside in Jerusalem and the sweetness of love, because that's really what this holiday is about. It's about love and about connection to the divine. Our parsha today contains one of the strangest stories, and yet one of the most interesting stories. Let me tell you what happens, and then we'll unpick it a little bit, but there's way more than I can ever begin to do with you here. So, as you know, we've just spent all of Exodus setting up the Mishkan. We get to the beginning of Leviticus. We're taught how to use it. And sorry, this is Lila. She says hi. That's the end of her. She's saying hi again. Oh, and we learn how to use it. And then Moses goes ahead and anoints Aaron and his 4 sons, who are now ready and really sort of poised to make the machinery of divine connection through the Mishkan work. And this involves the ritual sacrifice of animals, the burning of certain parts, the eating of other parts within the holiness of the tent, and the dashing of the blood against the altar. This all affects the connection between the people and the divine, reminds the divine that the people are still in covenant, reminds the people that the divine is still present within their midst, and enables the beauty and the sweetness of this love, of this relationship to go on. So along come the 2 older sons of Aaron, Nadav and Avihu. Generosity and he is my father is how their names get translated. And they offer Eshzar, this strange fire that God hadn't commanded. They put incense on their fire pans like everybody else, and they offer this to the Lord, but with a fire that is somehow not part of the design. And immediately an answering fire comes out from the divine, and whoosh, they are spontaneously combusted, as my brother used to say, or consumed. And we're taught actually that all that is left is their clothes. They burned so quickly and with such heat that it was like they were standing 1 minute and then their clothes fell upon the ground. And others are instructed to take away the clothes, and Aaron is told to be silent. His 2 eldest sons have just died, and the divine says, and I'm going to read it to you, pardon me for not looking at you while I do this, because I want to get it absolutely, absolutely right. The divine speaks through Moses and says, Bekrovai ekadesh, ve'al pnei kol ha'am ekabed. In the ones that are holy to me, or in the ones that are close to me, I am made holy. And in, how do we say this? And in the face of all of the people, I am honored. You would think that that would be the sort of thing that the divine would say when a great sacrifice had taken place, like a great, as in a good one, not a great as in, oh my gosh, my 2 sons. There is something oddly antithetical to the death of these 2 leaders by fire and the spoken understanding of what happened, and Aaron's silence in this whole thing. And by the way, though, I think the word for Aaron's silence is very important. It says vayidom, and he was utterly silent. But also the root there could have cognates with the word for dam, for blood. Yeah, and you have this experience, this moment, where your children are about to surpass you, or at least to join you in the great holiness of your calling, and then they're gone. And we're then brought back into the reality of the transitioning from normal to holy space, and the oddness of these two important deaths, which of course everybody has witnesses. And so, as I said, the young men are brought forward, and they carry out either the dead bodies, or if they really were combusted, just the dead people's clothes. And then the two remaining sons are told, don't mourn, don't tear your hair or tear your clothes. We only have the tearing of the clothes these days, by the way, in our mourning, lest you do something bad to the people, because you have just been anointed. They were just anointed. You have just been anointed. You are holding this holy space as the intermediary between the general populace and the divine. And if you lose it, then who knows what could happen, right? This could be a very, very dangerous situation. And so they do that. And the one thing, and I'm going to scroll along and read again to you, they're then commanded to eat part of the offering, and they don't. They actually take it and burn it. And Moses says, "Madua lo achaltem et hachatat b'makom hakadosh?" Why did you not eat of this sacrifice in the holy space? And Aaron says, "Really? You want me to go ahead with all of my priestly duties after everything that I have experienced today?" And Moses says, "Got it. I approve." So there's so much that we can do with this. I want to do two things. One is that I have always loved the idea that this is not that they did something wrong, that rather they did something so unusual that the only response was immediate union of the soul of the person, the soul of these two young men, and the soul of the divine, or the essence of the divine. And there's rabbinic commentary, of course, that I'm basing this on. And two, there is an understanding in the Torah that there are times when we are overburdened and we cannot do the things that we are traditionally able to do, and that is approved of. So let's go to the first one. Remember that Moses says, "This is what I do to those who are holy to me." There's a long tradition, actually, of the sacrifice of the firstborn, and we just experienced it. And so those of us who are fasting almost reenacted it. We became non-eaters for a day, not quite dead, thank God, but we didn't partake in humanity in that way. And that firstborn connection with the divine is woven throughout ancient Near Eastern history, as well as throughout Jewish theology. And there was an old custom of offering up your firstborn child as an offering if you were going to war or if you needed a good harvest, which we invoke often when we look at the Akedah, the story of the sacrifice of Isaac, and his near sacrifice with the replacement with the sheep is enough to convince many theologists that what is going on is that the divine is saying, "I do not wish you to sacrifice your children anymore. I wish you to sacrifice animals instead." But here, not in response to God's command, as Abraham was doing, but in response to the need of the community. There is a moment where the soul of the person is unable to withstand the holiness, and because of that, the on some level, God says, this is the how I show the face of the people the honor that I have. That it is possible, even though extremely difficult for us, right, as parents of children whom we want to see succeed and not die, to understand, but maybe it might be that the people suddenly really got it. That all the fire and the smoke on the mountain and the golden calf and the hope, their hearts were pinned on leadership and pinned on this idea that somehow leadership makes a sacrifice for you, and that helps you to become part of the community when you connect with them. And you can only imagine how people were connecting with Aaron at this moment in their horror at his loss. Not that it's good, but it is real. And we know this. We know this when we hear of the loss of a young person. It is so hard on us. Though we did not know them, we reach to their parents. And that there is something holy in that reaching out, that the people then come up to the level of the leader and say, we are with you. And it's only in doing that that Aaron can truly be the leader, that he can be seen. Bad way of doing it, I agree. Sorry, it's just in the Torah. We're just interpreting. And that's one interpretation. Plenty more. This is a very talked about story. The other piece that I want to say that's closely tied in with this is that at the end, Moses gets it. Moses gets that Aaron is just not able to do everything according to the way it's supposed to be done when he is grieving his children. And that is okay. And so on one hand, we have the terror of the loss mitigated by the fact that the loss shifts the relationship between the people and the leadership, between the leadership and the divine, and then also between the people and the divine. And second of all, we have the understanding that when you're really down and out, you are exempt from doing many things that otherwise you would be required to do. And I think it is that compassion and that loving kindness that we strive to exemplify as Jews in community, and that I hope, with God forbid, no deaths of young people and only deaths of older people at 120 like Moses, we are able to conjure up within ourselves and to look to our leaders, be they our rabbis or the presidents of our synagogues or the president of Kehillah or the person who's speaking most movingly in our Hashirim, and bring that sense of honor and compassion and joy to them and accept what they have to give and give what we have, so that we can all mix up this whole idea of leadership and be together as one people with that great desire, which is to connect and to share. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Rabbi Elisheva, for those lovely words. We continue now with the Kiddush, a little different. Page 122 for the prelude, which will be chanted by Michael Tucker, and page 386 for Kiddush proper, which will be chanted by Janice Jordan.
ויהי ערב ויהי בוקר יום השישי, ויחולו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם, ויחל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישפוט ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה. ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות.
Shalom friends, Kiddush for the festival evening is taken from page 386 of the Mishkan T. I remind you of the Shabbat inserts as well as the insert for special insert for Pesach. it's new and unfamiliar, so forgive me please. And then finally we end with the Shechianu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol am ורוממנו מכל לשון וקידשנו במצוותיו ותיתן לנו אדוני אלוהינו באהבה שבתות למנוחה ומועדים לשמחה חגים וזמנים לששון את יום השבת הזה ואת יום חג המצות הזה זמן חירותנו ואהבה מקרא קודש זכר ליציאת מצרים כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים ושבת מועדי קודשך באהבה וברצון בשמחה ובששון הנחלתנו ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת וישראל והזמנים. And we conclude with the Shechianu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Shechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Amen.
Amen. We turn now to page 586 for the Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשינו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות אדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונה, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים עמה, ושכינתו זו בגובי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אין בזולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום לשבותה לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת עוד.
Page 589. Eternal God, we face tomorrow with hope made stronger by the vision of your realm. A world where poverty and war are banished, where injustice and hate are gone. Teach us more and more to share the pain of others, to heed your call for justice, to pursue the blessing of peace. Help us, O God, to gain victory over evil, to bring nearer the day when all the world shall truly be one. We will be joined now by Lydia de Beer and Gershon Talyard, and we will be turning to page 595 for reading number 6 by Lydia.
Please join us on page 595 for the Mourner's Kaddish. Number 6. It is hard to sing of oneness when the world is not complete, when those who once brought wholeness to our life have gone, and naught but memory can fill the emptiness their passage leaves behind. But memory can tell us only what we were, in company with those we loved. It cannot help us find what each of us alone must now become. Yet no one is really alone. Those who live no more echo still within our thoughts and words, and what they did is part of what we have become. We do best homage to our dead when we live our lives more fully, even in the shadow of our loss. For each of our lives is worth the life of the whole world. In each one is the breath of the ultimate one. In affirming the one, we affirm the worth of each one whose life, now ended, brought us closer to the source of life, in whose unity no one is alone and every life finds purpose. Please turn to page 598 for the Mourner's Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ועלמדי ורע כראותי, וימליך מלכותי, ביכון וביכון, וביחי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה וזמן וקרי ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה ומברך, לעילם ולמיה אל מיה, יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר, ויתרומם, ויתנשא, ויתהדר, ויתהלל, ויתהלל, שמי קדושה בריחו. לעילה, מן כל ברכתה, ושירתה, תושבחתה, ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמה, ואמרו אמן. יש לה שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום ברמומה ורחמיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן.
At this moment our thoughts turn to those who are no longer with us, people whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. May their memories be for a blessing. Graham Belcom, father of Cynthia Rosen, Eric Son, father of Melanie Son, Avram Talyard, father of Lydia de Beer and Gershon Talyard, Boris Joffe, father of Benji Joffe, Izzy and Sarah Liebov, parents of Myrna Margot, Dean Walt, son of Ivan Walt and Belinda Walt, Marjorie Cotton, mother of Hayden Goldman, Mary Stringfellow, grandmother of Lauren Shalem. Jeff Dollinger, brother of Dr. Cyril Dollinger. From Beit David in Durban, Molly Gottman, mother of Myrna Andrew. Eunice Frankel. Daphne Simpson, mother of David Simpson and Jeff Simpson. Gerald Mervis, father of Louise, Gary and Wayne Mervis. The following persons passed away recently from Beit David in Durban. Barbara Lipschitz, mother of Alan, Joan and Stanley Lipschitz. From Beit Menorah, Pretoria, Clayton Lautenberg, son of Wilfred and Marlene Lautenberg, and brother of Genevieve, Lida Carvello and Shannon Crabtree. From Beit David, Morningside, Thomas Marie, brother-in-law of Lydia de Beer and Gershon Talyard. Edward Cohen, father of Anthony and Gillian Cohen and Samantha Berger. Christopher Nyarsalt, friend of Joshua Jankalo. Marcia Zagnov, cousin of Myrna Marga. May their memories be for blessing. We conclude now with the following announcements for the information of congregants. We thank Rabbi Elisheva for a sermon, and we thank Adam Stahl and Daron Kanar for facilitating the live stream. Please join us tomorrow at 10 a.m. for our Shacharit morning service, when we will celebrate the public recognition of the new Jews by choice. Only the immediate family will be present in the Shul, and the service will be streamed live to YouTube using the usual link. Rabbi Elisheva Salomor extends an invitation to join us tomorrow, the 3rd of April, Saturday, at 6 p.m. for a Shabbat Shir Hasharim, Song of Songs, Poetry of Love get-together. This is lovely, novel idea. Rabbi invites you to pour yourself a glass of wine and listen to this timeless story of passion and joy. Bring a love poem to share. The Zoom link was circulated with the Adkan, and a WhatsApp with details will be posted to the Beit David members group. We conclude the service with the singing of Shalom Aleichem on page 627. We wish you all Shabbat Shalom and Moadim La Simcha.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachi Asharet, Malachi Elyon. Mimelech, Mimelech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem leshalom, Malachi Ashalom, Malachi Elyon. Mimelech, Mimelech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. La 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 Barchuni leshalom, Malachi Ashalom, Malachi Elyon. Mimelech, Mimelech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem leshalom, Malachi Ashalom, Malachi Elyon. Mimelech, Mimelech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. La 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 la
for the hamotzi. Here we are. Matzah, of course. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. I will end off with these words. God is beneficent in all ways and faithful in all works. The Eternal One is near to all who call upon God with sincerity. The Eternal One fulfills the wishes of those who fear God. See you tomorrow morning, and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shalom Umvorach, Shabbat Shalom, Shalom Umvorach, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom.